Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Teena, you're watching Perspective. NASA astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore returned to Earth early Wednesday after an unexpected stay at the International Space Station for more than 9 months. A SpaceX crew Dragon spaceship carrying the two astronauts alongside American Nick Hague and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov successfully splashed down off the Florida coast, marking the end of a mission that captured global attention. The two astronauts, Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, flew to the orbital lab in June last year on a scheduled 8-day mission to test Boeing's Starliner on its first crewed flight. The spaceship, however, developed propulsion problems and was deemed unfit to fly back and later returned empty. Now, this unscheduled stay in space led to both astronauts spending 286 days on the International Space Station, where they conducted over 4,500 orbits and traveled more than 121 million statute miles. The crew will now undergo NASA's 45-day post-mission rehabilitation program to help them readjust to Earth's gravity after an extended period in space. Their safe return not just marks the successful completion of their space mission, it's a story of human endurance and perseverance in space, inspiring space enthusiasts around the world. To talk about the longest ever unscheduled stay by humans in space, the challenges both astronauts faced during their stay, their return journey, and how this incredible journey of the two remarkable astronauts, one of whom is of Indian origin, will help space scientists across the world. We'll talk about all this and much more with two distinguished guests joining us on the program. I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Surendra, distinguished scientist and former senior advisor, ISRO. Dr. Pal, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. I'm also pleased to have Dr. W. Selvamurthy, former Chief Controller R&D, DRDO. He's currently the Director General, Amity Science, Technology and Innovation Foundation. Dr. Selvamurthy, always a pleasure to have you with us on the program. Dr. Pal, allow me to begin the program with you. You know, what was supposed to be an 8-day mission turned out to be a 9-month-long mission. Talk to us about, the significance of the safe return of the two astronauts, the importance it lays down for the space scientists across the world.
It's a great achievement for NASA and the 4 astronauts who have come back. So they are welcome back to the Earth. It was very pleasant. The wind velocity was 2 to 3 knots, and they were welcomed by dolphins. So the entry was very good, and every communication, everything, they landed at the designated spot. Now, what are the things? It's an unplanned or unscheduled stay for the 2 astronauts, while the other 2 were part of the total system. So nobody talks about them, but everybody talking about these 2 astronauts. What the astronauts on long stay of 9 months, it's not the longest. Longest stay was 662 days by Russian, but we don't get the data of his experiences. We don't have it. Now here, 9 months stay, see, there will be effect on physiological effect as well as psychological effect. And I think Dr. Selvamurthy is an expert, but still I'll tell you. See, first is bone density will go down, their weight will go up, they will become slim, and their there will be muscular atrophy. So all these things makes it difficult to adjust on the Earth. So they will go through a rigorous program of 45 days to 2 months. And there is a battery of sensors and how to rehabilitate them. I was there in connection with some IEEE thing 10 days back in Houston. And I discussed this thing with the scientists from NASA. They told we have got big things in Houston itself, and a lot of experts are there who are looking for. So hundreds of experts will see to it that they get rehabilitated. Now there are 2 things in this one. One is reversible damage, another irreversible damage. Reversible damage are like a muscle atrophy, maybe bone mass, maybe height which is increased can come down to things. So and like baby foot, because the skin of the foot will go away and it will be baby foot. They will learn how to walk. All those things are there.
You're right. So
the irreversible damage could be the radiation damage, because the radiation at 400 kilometers, radiation at the 400 kilometers orbit is quite high. It's in 12 days they get the radiation dose, which a airliner on the Atlantic will get in 1 year. Not only this spacecraft passes through the Van Allen belts, lower end of the Van Allen belt, which is a radiation belt. Then it also goes through the South Atlantic anomaly, where a lot of radiations are there. So it's not that only, I mean, it's a constant thing. The radiations are varying. When it is in the high altitude, I mean, if you go to 55 degree, etc., there will be radiation, more radiation than near the orbital thing, or near the equator. So all those things are there that will affect their health, and that can cause a permanent damage to their brain or to their capillary system, etc. So that's the thing.
You're right. So their challenges,
Which
even
one is to
after
worry
their
about?
safe return
Thank
is
you.
not going to end. You're right, Dr. Pal. The fact that they will have to undergo a 45-day rehabilitation to readjust to the Earth's gravity. They've spent, more than 9 months at a stretch in space. And this was, of course, unscheduled. Dr. Selvamurthy, we understand that what they have achieved, this feat of spending so much time, something which was unscheduled, but they've endured these challenges. They've come back home safely. Talk to us about how challenging it was to bring them back in the first place, considering that they went only for 8 days, but because of some, technical problems that, the Boeing Starliner had to face. How difficult was it to then bring them back, ensure that each and every step was, foolproof so that they came back home safely?
Thank you, Teena. It is always a proverbial saying, it's not a rocket science. Whenever they talk about the difficulties in science, they say it's not a rocket science. Rocket science is always such a complicated the program and missions, and there are those so many ifs and buts in those missions. That is why the challenges which the space scientists face, whether it's a manned or unmanned space missions, it is really a big challenge, right? From propulsion control, guidance, navigation, payload integration, payload separation, and trajectory determination, and so many challenges. So the whole system, they expect for Six Sigma in terms of, and also they build redundancy so that if one system fails, there is a redundancy there. So that is how in the rocket science, there is a very complex technology involvement as well as the scientific challenges which arises. This is yet another example here. Yep, the two astronauts who were planned to be there for 8 days, they had to stay more than 9 months. So such a kind of exigencies is not a routine thing. It is unexpected. So if you have packed your baggage only for 8 days travel and then stay there, and you have to stay for 9 months, what are the challenges even a tourist will have. So such kind of challenges in terms of the physical, physiological, and psychological challenges would be there. And also the logistics is always there. One is with regard to the food supplies, and more importantly, the physiological and psychological challenges. And when you select an astronaut, you look into all this, the personality traits, the stress tolerance, resilience in one's personality, behavior. So this is all checked when they select the astronaut. So they have that profile in them to endure and also to withstand such kind of challenges. Then the training which they undergo during this training period before they are put into space is also very rigorous. It is both physical, physiological, and psychological. So they condition themselves to face such challenges, make them robust. So this is the second preparation. Third will be to look for in mission planning all the exigencies to be taken care of. Now coming to the challenges which they had. See, the first thing was talking into the system. The failure, you all know that the propulsion system failed. There was a helium leakage and such complications, so they were not able to return as scheduled. So they had to look for docking with the International Space Station, which they did precisely, so that they safely get into the International Space Station. But now to send yet another recovery vehicle to bring them back So that was a challenge again. And then SpaceX handled it very well with NASA. And so today they are back. We are so excited as scientists looking at the precision with which the mission has been executed. And so they are safe back. But now coming to the challenges, physiological. The first physiological challenge would be vascular deconditioning. That is, hemodynamic system, heart and blood vessel work with gravity. So when your heart is here and brain is here, so the heart has to pump the blood against the gravity. So it has a systolic, diastolic, and a pulse pressure, which keeps the pressure up, pushing the blood into the cerebral system, the brain system, where you have all the control boxes, control systems, whether it's the cardiac center, vasomotor center, respiratory center, feeding center, everything is there, the control box. So it needs to be perfused all the time. But when you go there, the blood, since the cardiovascular adjustment is not happening, deconditioning occurs over a period of time, the blood pressure gets lowered to adjust. And there is a redistribution of the blood within the system itself,
Right.
like intravascular, extravascular, interstitial, the space of the cardiovascular system, there is a redistribution of the blood. So this happens. So the first challenge will be the rushing of blood into the cerebral system. So they will feel heavy in the head, and also concentration, memory, cognitive abilities, all will decline. So that is one physiological. The second will be the equilibrium, because normally your weight bearing and keeping the equilibrium is determined by your semicircular canals in the ear. So in the ear, not only you have the hearing mechanism, which is cochlea, and you also have a semicircular canals which maintains the equilibrium. We don't fall easily.
Right.
Immediately we store. And this with cerebellum, it works. And that, so this goes haywire. So that is why when they come back, so there is a disorientation. People tend to fall because they have forgotten how to adjust. Similarly, when they come down, the hemodynamic system doesn't know how to adjust to the gravitational pull of the blood, which they were doing prior to the sojourn to space, but they don't know how to do it now. So it takes that deconditioning, hemodynamic deconditioning, which occurs, where you have the baroreceptors, which are located in the blood vessels supplying the brain, that becomes sluggish, baroreflex becomes sluggish. So this takes some time to restore. So in this 45 days, the first thing will be to restoration of the hemodynamic
Right.
systems, so that there is no syncope. The third one is the muscular dystrophy. Any organ which is not used will undergo atrophy. So that's what happens in space, that you are not able to use the muscles, particularly weight-bearing muscles, unless you do keep doing isometric exercises and so on. So here there is a muscular dystrophy happens. Then the bone mineral density, which also that Surendra mentioned, that this undergoes, if you stay for 1 month there, 1% of bone mineral density reduces. So they would have about 10% loss. So they have to be supplemented with calcium, vitamin D, which should be supplemented right now, so that they bring back the bone mineral density to the normal level, so that they don't get into osteoporosis or fractures when they fall. So this is yet another challenge. Then the fourth will be the psychological. Psychological will be first is adjusting to the circadian rhythm, because your biorhythms, all your physiological functions have a rhythmicity. And biorhythm, we call it a circadian rhythm. So this is entrained to solar cues, which goes haywire in space environment, because you don't have the solar periodicity over there. So you are conditioned, your system is entrained to social cues. So you switch off the lights at some time and switch on at some time. So this is how you adjust. Then the claustrophobic environment in which the space crew have to live for such a long time, 9 months in such a small space, moving around. And that's a big challenge.
You're right.
Then the food and waste management. So these are all the challenges to endure over there. And then once you come back, this 45 days is very important to restore the initial part of acclimatization back to the earth environment, which is happening right now. But we have a schedule because we have in space medicine a schedule of the training and the interventions to be given for these astronauts on their return. So they will be following these schedules. Now, this is a big lessons for our ISRO. What I want to infer from this is that how do you build these kind of challenges, exigencies, contingencies, crisis management? Our ISRO is very well accustomed to such kind of challenges, and certainly
Sure,
they would
Dr.
have taken
Selvamurthy. In
note
fact,
of.
we'll come to that in just a bit. You're right. You explained to us very well about how spending extended periods in space can pose risk to astronauts' health. Even now, when they've returned to Earth safely, the kind of challenges that they still face. But we're hopeful that with the kind of determination, the grit, the resilience that these astronauts have, shown in the face of multiple challenges, even in space. We're hopeful that when they come back after that 45-day period, they'll be able to inspire space research, space enthusiasts globally. And that leads me to the next question about how prepared or how motivational can the others can they be for the future space programs. Dr. Pal, I'll come to you first to understand your perspective on the precision with which this mission was executed, especially in planning their safe return after they were stranded there for 9 months altogether. How do you think it's going to pave the way in preparing for future space missions, and particularly if I may ask you about the human space flight missions, sir?
You see, for a human flight, whether it's a launcher or the spacecraft module, like a Dragon or maybe a Starliner, no, they are certified for a human rating. And human rating means most of the systems have got triple redundancy, plus there is a procedure by which it goes. They can, suppose there are 500 operations, one operation is only allowed to misbehave. So that sort of redundancy and quality assurance and quality control is put for the human redundancy. Now, what are the things for the future? One is this astronauts are not new, they are the veteran astronauts. I mean, both of them have gone 3 times. I mean, this is their 3rd flight. So they are veteran. NASA knows about it. What happened with the Starliner that provided the lessons for the Dragon, because Dragon spacecraft has gone earlier. They used to carry the food supply, etc., and other things. And not only this, there was a Soyuz spacecraft which was parked. I don't know why Soyuz they did not use for this thing. Maybe they thought it's not an emergency. Extended period is not an emergency, because the ISS has got a capacity to have 6 astronauts at one time, and that can be extended. See, they call it stations, and they were I think 2 or 3 bathrooms. Plus, the supplies are stored for longer periods. It's anticipated that such thing can happen. So, this is what happened. In the case of exigencies, they were well prepared for it. As far as the experiments are concerned, they conducted something like 200 experiments. 62 flights they have done it outside the spacecraft for maintenance purposes. Now, what my worry is that it was very well planned and everything was working. Their tracking network, both from the TDRSS as well as the ground network, they were working. The orbit determinations were precise. The injection points were precise. The descent angle was it was gradual. It was not steep like what is done for Soyuz. The Russians do it. So all those things were there. They came in a proper environment. But still there are problems. Acceleration creates a problem both in the blood, brain, etc., which Dr. Selvamurthy talked about it. Deceleration also creates a problem. And also it passes through the plasma, where the temperatures are 4,000 kelvins, and no communication is there, so those things are managed very well by tracking it with radars. So NASA has done it, total system is there. Now, the one thing I would like to tell is, we have learned a lesson from this one, ISRO. Our 2 astronauts are also there. They will go in XCM, maybe in Dragon or Starliner, and they will stay for 15 days. So ISRO should also prepare. We are prepared for such eventualities for Gaganyaan, okay? Because already some thing has been conducted. There was a capsule put on that one. Experiment was conducted. I mean, it's what is called is a crew escape module. That experiment was conducted in 2007. We sent a satellite, brought it back. It's like on the same lines as the Dragon has come and splashed. We splashed in west of Bay of Bengal. So we are ready on that direction. We are working on that one. So when Gaganyaan goes, all experiences of NASA from Russians, from French, that
Okay.
will be utilized, and ISRO is in contact with them, and I'm quite confident we'll do it.
Right. Dr. Selvamurthy, this, even though we are happy, we are celebrating because of the two astronauts. Sunita Williams is of Indian origin. We take extreme pride in her achievements. The fact that her safe return highlights both success and failures, because she was supposed to return in 8 days. She had to stay there for 9 months. Although it was a blessing in disguise, if you look at it from the point of view of space exploration, from the point of view of space research and the multiple records that now are in the name of Sunita Williams, the question here is there are multiple lessons for missions, future space missions, particularly if I may ask you about significant lessons for ISRO in context of our own human flight mission, the Gaganyaan?
Right. See, the first thing the ISRO will take note of is the perfection in the mission planning, because mission planning should have redundancies, exigency plans, crisis management.
Right.
Everything is a routine part of the mission planning itself. So the mission planning, these lessons which they have learned in Starliner and the incidents of extending the stay here. So that is the first part. Then the second part, they will also look at the safety in a greater measure, which is built in right from human rating up. Everything has to be human rating, because just sending a satellite to space is one, but sending a human to space, the safety measures are multifold increase, much bigger.
Certainly.
So that again, every material component devices has to be human rated. Then how do you plan the crew module is very, very important. Crew module, which is ergonomically designed, and also to accommodate that n number of crews for which the crew compartment is planned. Then the space suit, again, is another challenge which they have to precisely develop the space suit, which is a life support. Then you need to also look at how do you shield, as he was mentioning, when the re-entry happens, the temperature reaches very high. So the heat shields which they put to not allow that temperature to come inside the crew compartment, so that there is a heat dissipation outside, heat sink. And then this tiles which they use it to prevent the heat coming into the cabin, the crew cabin, the crew compartment is much less. And so this is yet another thing. Then how do you slow down? Because this spacecraft will be coming at a tremendous velocity, like, for example, 70,000 miles per hour or 37,000 kilometers. That is the velocity at which it is moving. But then how do you slow down to a level when it splashes down? It reaches a very, very slow velocity, and it reaches very safely into the recovery site. And then how do you create that recovery vehicle, particularly the parachutes, which the slows down at two phases. So the one is fast slowing, and then the other one is slow descent to bring them safely down. So this actually comes from DRDO. Since I'm from DRDO, I know ADRD at Agra gives those special parachutes for material devices. Even tanks can be put through the satellite. So that is the kind of parachutes come from there. Double gives, which is a DRDO lab, gives the ergonomic design of the space suit as well as the crew compartment. Defense Food Research Laboratory makes the space food, which they gave it even in 1984 space mission. And the Institute of Aerospace Medicine, they prepare the crew for selection as well as training in the centrifuge for getting them acclimatized to different gravity situations. So all this is done. So there is many institutions participate in this program. And so that is why the complexity is more, and they build all the redundancy. So ISRO might have learned quite a bit. And I was also happy to see many experiments done, particularly to keep the future astronauts in space, particularly International Space Station. You need to give fresh food. If the stay is going to be longer, you can't sustain them only on processed food, retard processed food, or meals ready to eat. You have to give fresh food as well. So that is where growing a vegetable there. So in Amity University, we have put the first biological payload has gone from Amity to space. The spinach, the callus of a plant spinach, which is there in poem 3, which is PSLV 60, which we have put there. It is now doing very well. The shooting, rooting, the callus growth, biomass formation, this is all necessary for vegetables. So we have put the spinach. Similarly, ISRO conducted the germination of a seed. How does it germinate in space environment? So these are all important to provide fresh food to the astronauts if they have to stay for longer, because you can't psychologically, physiologically, you can't keep them only on processed food.
Absolutely,
so
you're
all
right.
This will be good.
You're right, Dr. Selvamurthy. You know, the clock is ticking away. I'll take one last comment from Dr. Pal as well. Since you spoke about the future, and this is something that I would like to end the show with, Dr. Pal, you know, as a senior scientist, this is one moment, the safe return of Sunita Williams is one moment which is particularly inspiring for the younger generation, the young scientists, particularly in India. How do you think ISRO can leverage this moment to inspire this whole generation of space scientists who want to make a mark in the area of space exploration?
See, first is this incident itself will do it because it's well publicized. Second is ISRO is doing a lot of things, you know. I mean, they have got a program for school children, they have got a program for the college children. And I was on 14th, 15th, I was in Trivandrum, you know, addressing some conference on microwave. And the youngsters asked me a lot of questions about the space, how they can enter ISRO, how they can enter DRDO, because these two agencies do quite a bit of space work. So already ISRO is doing those jobs, and there is a university is there, IST at Trivandrum. They also train the students. And a lot of programs are being done by ISRO. A lot of cells are there. ISRO cells are there in various colleges, universities, and now school level also they are going to train the students. You know, whenever there is a launch, school students are invited to witness the launch. So that way ISRO is doing quite a bit, and I'm sure they will do much more to encourage the students to come for the space. And there is a lot of interest in the space by the students. How to do it, they try to do it. They see the models and they can simulate on many things they can simulate on the computer. I have myself interacted many persons, many students to many schools. So I see a bright future as far as space technology is concerned in the country. Thank you.
You're right. And, you know, to further this interest, the Prime Minister has already invited Sunita Williams to come visit India when she recovers. So we hope she accepts that invitation. She comes to her home country, to her country of origin, and inspires this generation of scientists who want to make it big in the area of space research and space exploration. So that having been said, I'll have to wind up the program. Time allows me to take up only that much on this edition of Perspective. Once again, a big thank you to both our guests for joining us on the program, sharing your thoughts, your views with us and our viewers. And to you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.